listening to the Air Raid Hour of Buffalo Fanatics Video Experience.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour presented by Buffalo Fanatics. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me, as always, on Twitter at Judge Mathis. And I am joined today not by my partner in crime, Dave Tilton. He's on dad duty this afternoon or this evening. But I am joined by Producer Kendall at Kendall Mercy or at Mercy. Wow, I already screwed it up. Time to go, and I already screwed it up. At Mercy Kendall on Twitter. And together we are the Bills guys, presented by Symbol. Use the promo code Fanatics, get the $10 deposit bonus. We are filling up here in the comment section. I love it. Ombre Lob, Kobe, Juan Kenobi, Umber, Don Keith, Famer Dub, Aiden Root, Blair Decker already coming in. Wants to talk about the running backs. We're going to get to the running backs in a little bit. Dwayne Edwards, Richard Rush, Jay Davis, Andrew Miller, Harold Fuller, Lance Nelson, Chris Janke, Vermin XX, Josh Clark. We got a couple others in there as well. David Kane with the Sabres tweet there, with the Sabres comment there. Owen Power season. We got Tyler in the house, Randy Hardman in the house saying big trade coming. And that's where I want to start today. Big trade coming. There are some rumblings out there, and there have been a couple of people. I know that there was the New York Giants insider, or one of the beat writers for the New York Giants. He, a couple of months ago, before the draft, said the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles have a deal in place for Zach Ertz. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. And then, as we know, it turns out the Bills and the Eagles were in pretty deep discussions, and it turned out that Brandon Beane balked at trying to give up anything more than a 5th-round pick. You have that same insider again coming in saying it's a done deal. So clearly he might be connected because of those things. You had Ryan Lazel from Rochester GSN coming in saying he's heard from a source that he trusts that has broken news to him before that the Bills and the Eagles are heating up on Zach Ertz, and the compensation would likely be for a 4th or a 5th-round draft pick. If you ask me, I think that's why the deal hasn't gotten done yet. If the Buffalo Bills really want Zach Ertz, I think the reason why the deal hasn't gotten done yet is probably because the Eagles want a 4th-round pick, and probably because the Bills want to give up a 5th-round pick. Either that, or it's how much money the Philadelphia Eagles are going to eat. What do you think might be holding up this deal if the Bills are truly, in fact, interested?
I think you hit it on the head. It's got to be that proportion of what the Bills are willing to give. It could just be that, if it's tipping on a 4th or a 5th and the Eagles just really are holding out for a 4th, or it could be a financial complication where it's like, how much of this are the Eagles willing to take and how much do they want the Bills to take in terms of Ertz's contract and the remainder of his contract. So that it could be either one of those, or it could be both. So there's definitely some sort of complication, but I think honestly, it's just great to know that we're in on that. We're at least aggressive enough to field those calls and look into it, do our due diligence, because, a lot of us have been talking about the Julio Jones thing, and some people think it's like, oh, the Bills aren't even taking those calls, or they're not even interested, or, it's never going to be like that. It's clear that Brandon Beane is going to do his due diligence on anything he can to improve this team. It's just he has a clear price, and I think that's why this is probably taking so long to get done.
In the comment section, let us know, do you want the Buffalo Bills to make a move for Zach Ertz, or do you not want the Buffalo Bills to make a Zach Ertz? Let your voice be heard in the comment section. Let us know what you think. We'll read some of those comments out. But Vermin X comes in and says, money plus Knox and a 4th-round pick. There's no way we give up Dawson Knox in this trade, right? There's no way you pull the trigger if it means giving up on the potential of Dawson Knox.
Yeah, I don't think it would be to get rid of someone like a young staple of this management group that picked Dawson Knox. They invested a lot and stuck out their neck for Dawson Knox, and they're continuing to do it. If anything, I think the Ertz thing, it's going to take away some snaps from him, some key like pass catching reps and stuff like that. But he's going to learn a lot from a seasoned veteran and someone who really knows the ins and outs of the position. And yeah, he could learn a lot from him. So I don't think it's gonna.
Yeah. I mean, Richard Rush coming in saying maybe Bean says, "Fuck you, we've got Hollister and Knox, so it's a 5th or nothing." So maybe he does feel comfortable. Dawson Knox came out today and in his interview said he worked with the hand-eye coordinator specialist for like 5 weeks in California. He's going to tight end university. He says he's gonna be hooking up with Travis Kelce and stuff this offseason. So Dawson Knox is putting the work in, and his athletic profile is that of a guy with some pretty high upside. So this is where Brandon Bean's bargaining chip comes in. It's like, hey, Philly, you want to get this guy off of your roster. You want to get that money off your roster, at least some of that money off your roster. We're not going to overpay for this dude because we feel confident in what we have. So I like that comment from Richard. There was another comment from Blair Decker. If Ertz revives his career, then I'll be fine with having him. That's another point that a couple of people made on Twitter today as well. Ertz has always been like one of the top targets in Philadelphia, right? He's always been numero uno or, number 2. What if you come into a situation where there's Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis? That takes a lot of pressure off of Zach Ertz. So maybe the targets go down, but the production for Zach Ertz goes up because he's a veteran who understands how to work the middle of the football field and get open over the middle of the football field. So that is super interesting as well. And then we got a super chat here from Lance Nelson. But before that, Jay Davis says, hooking up with Travis Kelce. Pause. Lance Nelson comes in and said, would you rather make a trade for a guy on the block or sign a free agent without giving up assets? And that's a great question because there are some guys out there. My number one target is Jarrell Casey. A couple of prominent members of the Bills Mafia content creating community, Joe Marino, Dave Tilton, our co-host, are in on Geno Atkins. There's obviously Steve Nelson, Richard Sherman. 5th round pick. Say it's a 5th round pick. 5th round pick for Zach Ertz, or spend that money freed up on Stephon Diggs for a free agent. Which way are you leaning? Are you leaning Ertz for a 5th, or are you leaning one of those guys out there in free agency?
I think it would really depend on the guy it is in free agency and what that price tag is. If it's a 1-year deal, that price tag is a little more irrelevant. Jay Davis brings up Sheldon Richardson. That's actually a sneaky one that I like too. I don't know. I think I would lean Ertz still, which is really weird because like a week ago before the rumors, I wasn't too, into the whole Ertz stuff. But if it's only going to take a 5th, I mean, even a 4th is pretty fair. I would obviously prefer to just deal the 5th. But no, Lance brings up a really good point because there are certain situations where it's like, yeah, I'd like to get as many stabs in the draft as we can get because, we have pricey contracts coming up like Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, whoever, Stephon Diggs extension in 2022, things like that. Like we have to start thinking about filling out this roster on the back end in a cheap way, not in a, finding veterans kind of way at, a premium because they're veterans. Yeah. So I kind of want to keep assets, but I think what Ertz would do to this offense, it's probably, Jarrell Casey's probably the tipping point. I think I would prefer Jarrell Casey, whatever the price tag may be for a 1-year deal over Ertz, but it's really close. Mm-hmm. I'm on the fence. It could go either way.
And it's really weird with Casey too, because Casey hasn't signed with anyone yet. I would love to get an update on like what his physical condition is. Cause I know, he played really well in Tennessee for years, went to Denver, had that injury, hardly played in Denver. Not the craziest injury in the world. I believe it was a bicep tear. So that's something that typically players come back from, but I'd love to get an update on his condition. Haven't seen an update on Jarrell Casey lately. Truth to Hearts comes in. It says the fact that some of the people in this chat are saying Ertz isn't worth a 3rd is tripping. Ertz is still a top 5 tight end. Y'all got to look at the tape before you have an opinion.
It's true.
I understand, but I understand where Truth to Heart's coming from, but I don't think people are tripping when they say he isn't worth a 3rd, because he might actually talent-wise be worth a 3rd round pick, but you're not giving up a 3rd round pick for Zach Ertz. Julio Jones is about to go for a 2nd. Zach Ertz is on the wrong side of 30. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He is coming off of a season where he was injured. There are all of these factors that are involved in Zach Ertz. 4th round pick is the highest I think anyone would want to go. Lance comes in, says David Njoku greater than Ertz.
But is that because of age, or is it because of what their actual skill is?
My guess would be if you're trading for David Njoku, you're just trading for another. You're trading for another Dawson Knox, like a guy who's got upside, who hasn't reached that potential. But from everything that I've heard in Cleveland, Njoku and the front office there and the staff there, are all back on the same page. So I don't think David Njoku is still on the block. So, yeah, he said he's happy with the Browns, says Chris Janke. So, Bucks wouldn't trade OJ Howard, but they may trade Cameron Brate, who is a possession type catching tight end that Allen likes. And that's the thing. It's like, once you get to, I would love OJ Howard. They're not going to trade OJ Howard. But once you start getting to Cameron Brate, it's like, are you really willing to give up assets when you have Tommy Sweeney coming back?
Right.
When you have Jacob Hollister? Like, that's where I'm starting to be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to give up assets. And also, guys of Cameron Brate's mold, I'm not saying Cameron Brate specifically, but guys of in his tier could quite possibly be released in August or late August when teams start to make cut downs. So if you get through training camp, if you get through the preseason and you don't feel comfortable in that tight end room with Hollister, Gilliam, Sweeney, and Knox, chances are there'll probably be someone on the chopping block that you can go out and you could pursue to add to that tight end room as well. So I don't think it's the end of the world. Randy coming in saying we don't need Ertz, develop the guys we have. Hollister, Knox, Sweeney are fine. I'm team. If we trade for Ertz, I'll be excited because cool. Like, he's a really flashy name. We have talked about having championship caliber players on this roster. We saw what guys like Stephon Diggs, did for this team and the way they just sort of elevated them. And that's why I really wanted the Buffalo Bills to push for JJ Watt this offseason. Like, JJ Watt had his first press conference in Arizona today, and they were just I'm trying not to use like an inappropriate phrase, but they were just spewing their load all over the radio this morning for JJ Watt.
Yeah.
Because, he was at the playoff game. He was talking about wanting to help the city and all these different things.
Right.
Elevate the players around him. So Zach Ertz is in that same mold of a JJ Watt, a guy who's won the Super Bowl, a guy who's been there, who's done that, just a proven guy in the room who's going to push everyone else and brings that championship caliber mindset to your football team. So to me, it's not the end of the world if we don't go get Zach Ertz, because like Randy said, I don't mind who we have in the room. I don't. But if we do add Zach Ertz, I will be really happy about it. But I would put my happiness level as over the moon if it's for a 5th round pick, happy if it's a 4th round pick, and I actually might be upset if it's anything higher than a 4th round pick.
Right.
Which I doubt it would be. I don't think Brandon Beane, would do that. So, but Andrew Miller coming in saying, sure, a player who is 31, 32 better have better numbers than a 24-year-old. What people like is a player who will be here a while, not on a rental. And that's true.
Right.
That goes back to the 1-year contract part. Like, so Ryan Lazel talked about from Rochester GSN, his guy was telling him that the Eagles were going to eat some money. That tells me the Buffalo Bills aren't interested in bringing in Zach Ertz and then reworking an extension. This could quite honestly be a rental or a 1-year prove it, and then we'll talk in the offseason type of deal. It doesn't seem like this is going to be a situation where the Buffalo Bills trade for Zach Ertz and then they immediately sign into some kind of extension and give him a contract until he's 34, 35 years old.
Exactly.
It doesn't look like that's going to happen.
And that's kind of the disparity with this Ertz versus Julio talk, because Julio is obviously an upgrade to like wide receiver 2 or whatever, wide receiver 1A, whatever you want to call it, to our wide receiver room. But Ertz, the same way, is a clear upgrade over Knox. It's just the longevity thing. And if you're only tied down to Ertz for 1 year versus Julio for multiple at a larger cost, because it's a larger cost and for multiple years, and then you look at Ertz, you're only going to be tossing a 5th or a 4th. You look at Julio, you got to toss a 2nd. I just think cost benefit wise, you're getting more in terms of an upgrade and you're paying less, at least when it comes to a position. Obviously, Julio is a better player, pass catcher, all around football player than Ertz. But in terms of how our team is built, it's just different in terms of that cost benefit analysis. And that's kind of why I would lean Ertz in this scenario. But it's very tricky, and you can tell that Beane's taking his time to make sure he's going to get this right.
We got David Kane. Oh, and before we get to David Kane's comment too, someone mentioned earlier the Colts have like 3 good tight ends, and they're not going to keep all of them. You could see a situation where what if the Colts trade for Zach Ertz? Like, what if the Colts? Then one of those guys are definitely on the chopping block. So I don't have their roster in front of me, but they sure as hell ate us up in that playoff game. I'm not so high on Trey Burton, but they had another couple of Mo Alley Cox and Doyle. So it'd be interesting to see if one of those guys end up getting cut loose if they had a guy like Ertz.
Right.
David Kane coming in saying Ertz was great in Carson, and we're going to close out the Ertz talk here. Ertz was great in Carson Wentz MVP season, and he's going to be great in Josh Allen's MVP.
I like that.
We're going to transition now to a little bit of. I want to talk a little bit about Star Lotulelei. So Rico showed the clip last night. I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter. Star Lotulelei looking like a changed man over COVID, doing apparently the opposite of what other Ryan coming in saying, I'll take one more.
I like that.
Doing he doing the opposite of what we've all done during COVID. Seems like he's maybe shed some weight, grew his hair out, grew his beard out. Man looks a lot different. It was hard to even believe it was him when you originally saw the clip. So my first question to you, after seeing that video, does that get you excited about Star Lotulelei, or does that get you looking at the one techniques left on the free agent market? Like, what does that do for you?
No, I'm actually excited about it. I know everyone thinks he's looking slim and he's looking too small, but there's no chance he's under 300 pounds. And even if he is, I'm pretty confident that he could get back over 300 and where he needs to be by the time of the season. I'll give credit where credit's due. I think Greg Thompson said it on Twitter a couple days ago. He was saying, like, most of these bigger guys, they work on like their lean muscle in the off season. They're working on like really just getting strong to their core. And then once the season starts rolling around, they put on that weight, that playing weight. So it's different for different positions. But really, bottom line, I just like to see that this dude is, working hard, and he looked spry. He looked fleet of foot. So I'm happy about that. I know Bobby's like, yeah, this dude's a 3-tech. He's 275 pounds. No, I think the main thing is there was no comparison in that video. It was just him. You don't know what his actual size is when there's no frame of reference. You just have him in those football, the football equipment, like those hurdles that he's going over. There's no frame of reference to understand how big he actually is. We just all think like he's moving quickly, looks kind of slim. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe he's like 280 now. We don't know that. It's just like the context we have, it does look like he's smaller.
Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I want to do. Anyone, we got to get this message to Star. We need him to recreate the video shirtless. So that way we can analyze how much is jiggling. And if there's enough jiggle, then we'll know that he's over 300 pounds and that he's doing what he needs to do. But even if he slims down from like 315 to 305, I still think he can be an effective 3-tech because he's a veteran. He knows the moves. He knows how to stack and shed.
One tech. You said 3-tech, but one tech. Yeah.
He knows how to stack and shed. He knows what he needs to do to eat up those blockers, and he can gain that weight as the season progresses. And someone said our pass rush is going to be insane this year. Like you're adding Boogie Basham, you're adding Gregory Rousseau, you're getting Star back. Obviously, Addison and Hughes can now step back. I do. Addison and Hughes can now step back and take more of a pin your ear back type of role on obvious passing downs. You got AJ Epinesa coming in. Leslie Frazier said he was between 255 and 258, which I think is too light. But hey, it appears that AJ Epinesa is going all in on being the Jerry Hughes replacement, not being the longer, leaner type of bookend left end that you typically see. So it'll be really interesting. And if our pass rush shows up and they do what needs to be done, that's going to mask the lack of depth in our secondary. That's going to make our secondary even better. Like whatever you want to, whatever spin you want to put on it. Like Dane Jackson's looking awfully aggressive so far in OTAs. Levi is Levi. You got a guy like DeMar Hamlin who could be used. I know the cover one guys are talking about, hey, maybe a guy like Tyrell Adams can step up this year at linebacker, and Matt Milano can be used in the Shaq Thompson role, like used in the slot, used more at safety. So you could see an entirely new look Buffalo Bills defense come this fall. Like Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott have had a whole offseason to figure out what went wrong in that Kansas City game, figure out what personnel they wanted to add, and you could see a completely different looking Buffalo Bills defense next year. And that's something we're definitely going to dig into more as we head into the offseason. But again, back to this free agency talk. Ryan Sullivan, hey, it's Jarrell Casey season again. That's my guy. He's a guy I want. Andy Kostaliski says, and I definitely butchered that, so I'm sorry. Go get a true number 2 cornerback like Richard Sherman, Steve Nelson are still out there. So there are some options out there. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this defensive line as a whole?
I mean, the defensive line as a whole, I'm definitely very thrilled to see what they're going to be doing. You alluded to it, what they could be doing on defense, generally, not just at the defensive line position. But Clay and I talked about it when we broke down Boogie Basham. We were saying like those 2 draft picks of Boogie and Rousseau, it kind of leads you to believe that the Bills are going to try to be more creative. We talked about it on the writers' room too. You know, it makes you think like maybe they're going to utilize more stunts this year. Maybe they're going to do some more creative blitzing. As obviously we saw them get a little bit more creative blitzing, like in that Seattle game with AJ Klein, trying to get him in a situation that's good for him. But at the same time, you didn't really start to see those kind of wrinkles come out a whole lot in the Leslie Frazier defense. And Sean McDermott defense, it's rather vanilla. It's rather just, drop back, play your zone, keep everything in front of you. But I think the moves that they've done this offseason, obviously there aren't a lot of moves that they did to change the defense, but I think the few moves they made, it does allow them to get a little bit more creative, and even if it is just on the front 4.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people coming in. Jay Davis saying Tyrell Adams is the most slept on dude. He was a stud in Houston.
He was.
Me and Dave had a conversation about that. Like, it'll be really interesting to see him once he starts to play because,
right,
there were some good plays from Tyrell Adams that you can see in clips and stuff, but they were one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Their defensive line didn't play very well, so a lot of guys got to the second level. So is Tyrell Adams really that good, or was it more of like the Preston Brown syndrome where it looked good, but it really isn't that good? So it'll be really interesting. Tyrell Adams is one of those guys I'm going to be keeping a real close eye on as training camp emerges. Chris Janke and Richard Rush saying they both feel like Dane Jackson could be really emerging as that CB2.
They're talking like it.
Jason Taylor saying don't sleep on, or what was it? I'm getting lost. David Kane saying, Jay Davis saying Elijah Griffin. It could be, a guy. David Kane says Tariq Thompson will make the team. So there are some options, and that's why training camp is going to be a lot of fun. David Kane says Jaquan is as good as gone. I don't know about that. I love me some Jaquan Johnson. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And Ryan always coming in, just a wet blanket in the room saying Levi Wallace does not lose camp battles.
He doesn't.
But I watched the Indianapolis game back, right? I watched the Indianapolis playoff game back. Josh Norman and Levi Wallace were platooning in that game.
They were. There was a clear lack of confidence from the coaching staff in him as the playoffs rolled on, as the season rolled on. It was very clear, but I feel like that confidence has clearly shifted towards Dane Jackson. Think about like all of the narratives that everyone's talking about Dane, like from the Bills organization. Think about how they're framing Dane Jackson right now. It sounds like they're talking him up and praising him as if he's going to be CB2. So I agree with Ryan. Like Levi Wallace doesn't lose camp battles, but this might be the time he loses.
And if he doesn't, it could be within the first month of the season. You could see it like there could be a situation where Levi Wallace doesn't lose the camp battle. The defensive line does a complete 180 and becomes a force. And then Levi Wallace is fine there.
Right.
Or it could take the defensive line a little while to find their bearings. And once they do, by the time they do, Levi Wallace has looked bad enough in actual games for a guy like Dane Jackson to usurp him in season, as we've seen the Buffalo Bills do. We've seen them make changes in season at certain positions, whether it's guys like Ike Bucker or Matt Milano or Levi Wallace himself a couple of years ago. The Buffalo Bills are not afraid to make changes as the season progresses at certain positions, whether it's because of injuries or whether it's just because players weren't playing well enough. So apparently Kendall, they're saying
I
the
got
mic
it.
is a little loud, so
I just turned it down.
Hopefully
that helps. Let us know if it's still going.
So let's shift now to the running backs, and let's talk about the running backs a little bit today. And my first question to you guys in the comment section and to you, Kendall, is this: Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Matt Breida. I'll even throw Antonio Williams in there for those of you in the comment section. Does a bell cow back emerge? A guy who takes, and by bell cow, I mean a guy who 75% of the snaps or more he eats up. Do you think there's a chance that a bell cow back emerges for the Buffalo Bills this year?
No, I don't think so. I don't think bell cows are a thing anymore, and I think we're beyond that. There's a reason that we went back-to-back third-round investments into running back, and it's because I think we wanted to have complementary running backs. I don't know about you, but going into the 2020 draft, I was looking at Dobbins, Taylor, and Moss. Dobbins and Taylor were, I think it was just Dobbins was available for the AJ Epinesa pick. And then we didn't take him, and we came back around in the third round and we got Moss. Either of those, all three of those guys were complements to what Devin Singletary is. And I think we have a great complementary backfield right now, so we should get everything we can out of it. And to do that, we need to share the football. We need to share the snaps. So, yeah, I would like a traditional feature back, a bell cow that's going to, get a ton of carries, ton of touchdowns, ton of yards, but I don't think that's how they're trying to build this running back room. So I see you said like 75% is the threshold to call it a bell cow. Mm-hmm. I don't think we see our leading rusher have more than 60% of the attempts. I don't think it eclipses that.
I'm just checking. Is my audio louder now? Louder now?
It is loud. Yeah, it's definitely louder. All it sounds good though.
Yeah, we'll get this figured out. So apologies for that if I was not, if I was the quiet one. I can just talk louder. No, don't want to burst anyone's eardrums. But no, I'm with the comment section there, and a bunch of people were saying this and as well. I still harbor some ill will for not taking J.K. Dobbins in that second round.
Same.
But Lance Nelson coming in saying we're going to rotate guys at every position except quarterback and safety, and I don't disagree. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. And that brings us to our next question. And that is, who plays what role on this football team? Because I think if you look at this depth chart and you look back to the Bills of yesteryear, is it just going to be a situation where Lance Nelson says Allen is the bell cow? Is it going to be a situation where Devin Singletary is, 1A, Zach Moss is 1B, and Matt Breida is TJ Yeldon? Or, as Ryan says, do the Buffalo Bills find a way to make Breida active and get Breida touches? It almost seems to me like it's going to be Devin Singletary versus Matt Breida for the 1A role, and Zach Moss is going to be that 1B. What are your thoughts on can we get all three involved, or is it going to be two of the three?
I think we can get all three involved for sure. I think there's definitely a way to do it. And I mean, I'll wait to share exactly how until our next segment. But I think there's a way that we can dress Breida on game day and actually get him the football on offense. But I think Moss is going to be 1A, and that's no slight on Singletary. I think they're both great at what they do, and they both win in similar but yet different ways. Yeah. I just like Moss's running style better, and that's not to say that Singletary's is bad. That's personal preference kind of thing. And also just based on what we saw last year, even in his rookie season, Zach Moss, you kind of started to see him get more of the snap share throughout the season while he was healthy. So it kind of leads me to believe that they liked what he was doing more. That could have just been a productivity efficiency kind of thing, because there were times in the season that it seemed like Moss was getting more bang for his buck than Singletary. But that could all change. It's all, who has the hot hand when it comes to running back by committee. So that's just me personal preference saying running back 1A is Moss.
And this is, again, recency bias. But like I said, I went back and I watched that Indianapolis wildcard game recently. And until he had that ankle injury that knocked him out for the rest of the playoffs that he's still dealing with because he was wearing the red non-contact jersey at OTAs, Zach Moss was the bell cow. They were getting him the ball in the shotgun, in the passing game. They were getting him involved in the running game. Zach Moss was the guy, and he was going on a little bit of a heater there until he, messed up his ankle, and he actually fumbled on that play, but he was down by contact, thankfully. Right. And then I think the very next play, Josh Allen threw that touchdown to Stephon Diggs. I think so. That eventually sealed it. But Devin Singletary didn't exactly light the world on fire against Baltimore, against Kansas City when he had his opportunity to be the bell cow. And TJ Yeldon came in, and TJ Yeldon was invisible, but a couple of people have mentioned this now, Randy included, Ryan included. Breida has something that these other two backs don't. and that is speed.
Mhm.
How do we get Matt Breida's speed involved in this offense? How do we get him? I disagree that he's just speed, because I've seen some of his highlights. He's a pretty shifty guy.
Mhm.
He reminds me a little bit of like Fred Jackson, the way he's got a little bit of wiggle to him, the way he bounces off guys, the way he can sort of turn nothing into something. So was he invisible last year in Miami? Yes, but he had some moments in San Francisco where he looked truly promising as a running back. He saved my fantasy team's ass a couple of times when he was in San Francisco, because he had a knack for catching balls and scoring touchdowns and making the most of his carries.
For sure. I definitely think there's a way that we can get him the ball. It's just about how we're going to dress him, how we're going to get him active on game day alongside Taiwan Jones, because it'd be tough to dress 4 running backs. But there's a way. And honestly, I'll jump into it now. I think the way is really Breida has to clear that high bar that Taiwan Jones sets as a gunner and as a special teams contributor. If Breida can somehow usurp that role from Jones, I'm not saying he has the ability. I'm just saying if he can, he's that third running back and he's dressing on game day. Yeah. That's how you get him contributing on offense. That's how you get him dressed on game days. So it's a long shot, but in terms of, how you're getting all your guys dressed on game day and who's wearing the jerseys, that's a way that it can happen. But, it's a high bar to clear when it comes to replacing Taiwan Jones on special teams.
Because you look at other positions, right? Wide receiver. Isaiah McKenzie's too small to gun. Isaiah Hodgins is a bigger guy, so he's not as fast. Gabe Davis is a bigger, more stiffer guy. Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, they're not going to be doing that. So struggle to find that in the receiving core. So then you start to look at the secondary, guys like Rashad Wildgoose, guys like Saran Neal obviously had a real go. Dane Jackson was gunning last year. He was in the Miami game. At least I saw it in the Miami game, and he looked pretty good as a gunner. So if Dane Jackson doesn't win the CB2 role, Dane Jackson could step up. But yeah, I agree. We need to find some gunners who can also contribute offensively, because all Taiwan Jones was good for last year was dropping that pass against New England. Right. So I think we gotta find a way to get Taiwan Jones off of this roster. That's the key for Matt Breida is getting someone stepping up so we can get Taiwan Jones off this roster. But Joseph Swinson comes in with a super chat. Always appreciate the super chatters. If you want your topic, whatever, your take to jump the line, you can guarantee that with a super chat. And Joseph comes in saying, my money is on Antonio Williams. After what he showed in last year's game, he's at least worth some game time. Great show, guys. Really appreciate it. And that brings us to our next topic. Where do Williams, Wade, and Jones fit in? And let's start with Antonio Williams, because this is a guy who was recruited by Ohio State. He left Ohio State and he went to North Carolina. He is a bowling ball looking runner. He just showed like he's got that drive and that willingness. Like, some running backs are just wired a certain way, and that makes them successful. And he looked like he was wired that way in Miami. That UDFA ain't nobody getting in my way. I'm going to bowl your ass over. I'm going to make the most of my opportunities. That's what you saw from Antonio Williams in that Miami game. Now, the Buffalo Bills did not trust him in the playoffs. Even after Zach Moss went down, it was still the TJ Yeldon show along with Devin Singletary. But could a guy like Antonio Williams in year 2 with the pedigree from being recruited? Yeah, check out his interview on the 5 Report. Could a guy like Antonio Williams surprise some people and make this roster, be a contributor? Could he be the TJ Yeldon? Could a guy like Matt Breida not make this team?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing stopping Williams from doing that but himself. He's competing with himself. I know obviously he's competing with Breida for that spot, but it's all up to him. It's what he does. And Jay Davis says it here. He's Moss with way more effort. No worries. He's Moss with way more effort. That was literally where I was going to go when Judge was talking about this. I was going to say, in that game against the Dolphins in week 17, he looked exactly how we imagined Zach Moss would look early in the season when he goes, I'm going to make defenders make business decisions. That's how Antonio Williams was running. He's running decisively with low pad level. I don't know if he had low pad level, but boy, he ran like he did. He had a lot of power behind those pads, and he refused to go down, kind of like Zach Moss did in that first Patriots game. What we wanted from him this whole time. So really the only thing getting in his way is himself. if he can do it, he's going to make this team. And yeah, but the thing is, it's like he's got to contribute on special teams probably.
Yeah.
Like,
and that was the point I was going to get to with Andrew Miller's comment here. He says Christian Wade's getting cut. He's saying Taiwan Jones getting cut, and Williams is going to fight for playing time with those three that we mentioned before, Breda, Moss, and Singletary. But my thing is that with those four, who's playing special teams? Like, is Breda playing special teams? Is Antonio Williams playing special teams? Who's playing special teams in that scenario? I don't know. And I know that we as fans don't like to think about those type of things, but to me, a running back room of Moss, Singletary, Williams, and Breda is more of a Madden fantasy than an NFL reality. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, you can make it work in Madden, but like you're also not controlling who's on your special teams roster when you're playing Madden. Like that's a real thing that happens in the NFL. It's the third phase of the game. So that third running back who's dressing on game days, like he's more likely than not he's not doing a whole lot on offense. So he better be doing something. He better have a reason to wear the jersey on game day, because I think it's like 46 or 47 of the 53 actually wear the jersey on game day. So you better be doing something during the game. So, there's no guarantee running back 3 is actually going to get offensive snaps, but you saw Taiwan Jones get in the game sometimes on offense. So there's a clear need where there's the balance. Like we want that third running back to clearly play special teams, but we'd also like him to be serviceable if he's getting on the field on offense. So if Williams is going to do it, like we know he's leaning more towards that offense. Like he can contribute on offense, but can he contribute on special teams? Yeah. And that's where I kind of start to like Christian Wade. That's where I kind of start to think if Christian Wade's going to make this final roster, I think he can do it because he's leaning into that special teams.
Yeah, Rico had a conversation with him. He comes from that rugby background,
right?
You really feel like the tackling and all those things are something that would come naturally to Christian Wade. And apparently the Bills have been working on him, not really as a running back, but as a return guy. Mm-hmm. So Christian Wade has really been working on that aspect of his game as well. In this conversation with Rico, I have to get this shot in. Texas fan comes in and said, "I've never seen a dumber quarterback than Josh Allen. This guy's always getting himself in sacks, and it's amazing, to be honest." Listen, you're calling our quarterback dumb. Your quarterback can't get a massage without getting arrested. So I will. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Our quarterback's actually going to be able to play on the field this year. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great question. Like Chris Jenke coming in saying, do you think Isaiah Hodgins could play special teams if he makes the roster? That's the question I have. Like, I want Isaiah Hodgins to make this roster.
Right.
I really do. I think Zach Ertz coming onto the team probably hurts those chances. But this is a guy who's come in and already in OTAs made a name for himself. This is a guy who, if the draft process wasn't sort of slowed down and everything from the COVID, he probably would have been higher than a 6th round draft choice if he had gone and been able to personally work out for teams and talk to teams like you would in a normal year. I think we bought Isaiah Hodgins and Dane Jackson were both steals for that reason. This is a guy who comes out and flashes in a preseason game or two. You're not getting him to the practice squad.
Yeah.
So there's the question you have for yourself is, can he play special teams? Can Hamlin play special teams? Not the greatest, not the greatest, not the most fluid of athletes, but again, comp him to like a Dean Marlowe, and Dean Marlowe played plenty of special teams. So there are options, but all of these options we're talking about, Saran Neal, Rashad Wildgoose, DeMar Hamlin, like these guys are all in the secondary, and we're not going to keep 12 guys in the secondary because then we got to cut those guys elsewhere. So it's just going to be really interesting to see. And once we get to training camp, we'll see who's lining up. Actually, we won't, because the COVID rules once again apply to reporters, and the reporters can't report where guys are playing. So like, it'll be really important, I guess, when training camp rolls around, to read Joe B's training camp reports on The Athletic, and read, Matthew Perino's write-ups, and read what guys like Dean Kindig on the Bills Mafia blog have to say. Actually, you might want to actually literally read what Dean has to say, because Dean isn't going to have a muzzle on him. Yeah. But they're usually pretty good at reading between the lines, and when they give their 53-man roster projections, it comes from things that they see that they can't report to us. So it's going to be really important to pay attention to those things when the season rolls around. And Chris says What if we only keep 3 running backs and keep an extra DB for special teams?
So this actually kind of goes to my point. I just wanted to bring it up because we were talking about Hamlin. Chris says earlier, Hamlin can play special teams, just not as a gunner. So I need to get out of my rigidity of this thinking that whoever our third running back is has to be the gunner because Tywan Jones is the gunner. That's not true. It doesn't have to be like that. So when I said Antonio Williams is going to have to make this team because he has a good balance of offensive ability and special teams ability, I guess when I was saying that, I was thinking more as a gunner. He doesn't have to be the gunner. He could make the team and say Rashad Wildgoose could also make the team. And then that gives you a reason to cut Tywan Jones because you have a replacement at gunner or whoever that replacement for gunner is. It doesn't have to be a running back. But I guess I was a little rigid in my thinking that whoever our third running back is has to be a gunner. He just has to produce on special teams.
Yeah. All right. That brings us to projecting the running back statistics in the 2021. I want you guys to have some fun with this in the comment section. Let us know what your thinking is. Like, how do you think that these running backs carries are going to get split? How do you think the yards are going to get split? The touchdowns? What are you guys thinking in the comment section? And Kendall, I will defer to you first. Like, how do you project the 2021 running back statistics for the Buffalo Bills?
So I went back to the 2020 stats and I checked where the rushing attempts were and the rushing yards were. I think we're going to be around the same number of attempts. I think we're just going to be a little bit more efficient this year. I think there's a clear emphasis on being more efficient with those touches. So I think there were somewhere around like 411. So I projected 415 rushes to go around. I said Josh is probably going to get like 90 of those, even though I'd like to see him run less. He's probably going to get like 90 of those, and I'm going to be okay with it because they're probably going to be good plays. As long as he can get better with the fumbling problems, I'm good with it. With it. So I'm saying Josh, Josh is a running back. At the end of the day, we're tossing him into this because he's part of the rushing statistics. 90 rushes, 400-ish yards, somewhere in that area, 6-ish touchdowns. Touchdowns are fluky to project, but somewhere around there. And then, like I said earlier, I prefer Moss to Singletary just preference-wise. So I gave the majority to Moss. I gave him 140 rushes, about somewhere in that 700-ish range for yards, and about 6 touchdowns. Probably, 100 receiving yards here or there, something like that. Not a lot of receiving output, but we know this team likes to pass a lot, and the running backs are going to have to contribute that way. It's probably like 100 there, maybe a touchdown. And then you go to Singletary, he'll probably have 100 yards somewhere around, or 100 rushes for somewhere around like 500 yards. So right there, you're at like, what is that? That's 16,000 rushing yards total. And then you bake in Breida. That's just kind of my projection that Breida is going to be the third running back. Probably somewhere around like 80, 85 rushes. So it's split like what is it, like 60, 30, 10 or something like that, 60, 20, 20, something like that. And Breida has 85 rushes, like 250, 300 yards, something like that, maybe a touchdown. And then he's going to do more of his stuff receiving. He's going to be like 150 to 200 receiving yards.
Nice. So Harold Fuller coming in saying Singletary all first downs, Breida all second downs, Moss all third downs, and Allen all fourth downs. I'll tell you what. Nice. I think for running backs, the thing is you want to have them try to like get into a groove. I don't know what kind of flow they would get in if that's how you separated the carries. But hey, Lance Nelson coming in saying Singletary gets 600 yards, Moss 450, Williams 250, and Allen 550. So he doesn't have
550. Wow.
Breida making the team. Jason Taylor comes in, says Moss 800, Singletary 220, Breida 300. Some more predictions here. And Truth to Heart says we definitely will have a bell cow, but with Moss and Williams, I think Singletary will eventually fizzle out.
That's a hot take.
That's definitely interesting. That is a hot take. With the man coming in with pecks of glory and showing up to OTAs, looking better. So that's definitely a hot take because I think people are going in the opposite direction of that. I think a lot of people are leaning towards Singletary right now. 60% Moss, 40% Singletary till he gets benched for Breida. So Xander coming in. John DeMarchi saying don't sleep on Matty B. Moss needs to prove he can stay healthy. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I want to see Josh Allen, just as you mentioned, and we can have a conversation about this. I want to see, and Justin Walker coming in saying Singletary 800, Moss 700, Breda 350, 250 receiving.
Yeah, that's around where I'm at.
I want to say, I want to see Josh Allen take on lesser of a role as a running back. I was watching that Indy game, and first of all, Matt Eberflus is just a really good defensive coordinator. Like, it seems to me like he had the Bills' offense figured out for the most part. And so Josh Allen was just in salvation mode or survival mode. And he was running a ton in that Indy game. Way more than I'd like to see. I'd really only like to see Allen carry the ball like 3 to 5 times a game. Like, and I don't really need any of them really, unless you're like in a short yardage situation, or he sees something in the defense where they're playing to man, they're all going to turn their backs and you're 4 wide receiver, or we're at the goal line. I really don't need any of them to be designed.
Right.
Like, you spent 2 third-round picks on a running back. Matt Breda has proven he can do things in this league. Like, let your running backs be running backs. Take some of that load off of Josh Allen. Take some of that load off of Josh Allen and let him just be a quarterback. Yeah. I'm not saying take the running back out of Josh Allen. I'm not saying don't use him as a running back, but pick your spots. I feel like we could have done a lot better of a job last year picking our spots. I don't think if I have really one criticism of Brian Dable, I don't think he picked his shots well in terms of when and when not to run Josh Allen. And I think Josh Allen took a lot of unnecessary hits, and eventually he's going to take that one unnecessary hit that is going to make us all lose our minds because we're going to lose our quarterback. So to me, you don't want to take that aspect out of Josh Allen's game, but you got to pick your spots better.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because like specifically applied to the games, like you don't want to see a 1st and 10 run. Obviously the Bills didn't do a hell of a lot of running on 1st down, but say it's a 1st and 10, like if we're going to run the ball, don't do a designed run. Or if it's a 2nd and 5 and we're going to run the ball, don't do a designed quarterback run. Save those for the 3rd and shorts or the 2nd and shorts, like the obvious, like we just need to pick up like this 1st down, get this short yardage thing. That's, or the goal line situations, like those are, I have no problem turning Josh Allen into a quarterback on those short yardage plays. But if you're like, oh yeah, Josh Allen is going to be a way for us to get 4 yards a carry, I don't want to see that on like a 2nd and 5 or 2nd and 7 where we're just trying to get 4 yards on a carry to make 3rd down more manageable. Just give it to the running back. That's why we drafted them, like you said.
Truth to Heart's coming in, and I like Truth to Heart's comment. He said, we literally saw Moss become the premier back, and that was without an offseason. I don't see how Singletary is fighting off Williams or Breda. I will say this. Devin Singletary has put in a lot of work this offseason. Zach Moss is coming off of a rather devastating ankle injury. I can see a situation where, once again, Devin Singletary starts the year as the 1A.
Yes.
But he's going to have to prove he's that 1A, because as Zach Moss gets healthier, you could see it turn more into 50-50 and then 45-55 and then 40-60. So my projection for that is I think that this season, Devin Singletary is going to get about 800 yards on the ground, 700-800 yards. Zach Moss will end up with about 600 yards. And then I have 2 other numbers. I have one 500-yard and I have one 300-yard. I would like to see the 500-yard go to Matt Breda and the 300-yard go to Josh Allen.
Right.
But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the 300 yards will go to Josh Allen, and the 500 yards, the 500 yards will go to Josh Allen, the 300 yards will go to Matt Breda. All in all, I think the combination of the running back room, the committee can push 2,000 yards this year. Because I think this offense is going to be just a fucking force this year. Like, they're going to be a force. Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox. Hopefully he finally starts to see some of that ceiling. You could possibly add Zach Ertz into that. Like, this offense is going to be firing on all cylinders in the passing game. If the running game can't figure it out and start getting more yards per carry in the 400 or so opportunities they get, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what to say. This better be one of the, if not the best offenses in the National Football League this year, because the talent's there. The talent is there. John DeMarchi coming in saying Zach Moss is like John Rambo. He has been taught to ignore pain. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. The guy was tough. Pac-12 Player of the Year. Like, if you watch his college highlights and stuff,
they're good.
He was a good player, like a really good player. We just really haven't seen too much of that NFL level.
I think we started to see him see the game slow down a little bit as we got into his rookie season. It was clear that he started slow, but I think we started to see what we thought we were getting from him as the season progressed.
There were people out there who, gosh, I just got a text saying that Anthony Davis is playing tonight. Sorry, my son. I want them to
priorities.
But we saw comps during draft season last year of Zach Moss to Kareem Hunt. That comp was out there in some people in the draft community's mind. So, we could see a situation here where Zach Moss does establish himself as a bell cow. And I'm searching up Kareem Hunt 40 right now just to see what the speed difference is.
Yeah, I think that's the main difference. Nope. But I think you were right.
462 40 for Kareem Hunt. So
I think you were right when you were saying like it's probably going to start Singletary because of the whole rehab thing. It just makes sense. Like he'll probably be worked into the lineup kind of similarly to how he was. Honestly, not similar. He was thrown in. Moss was thrown in pretty early. Like he was getting probably 50% of the snaps in that Jets game week 1. And Chris comes in saying, "What's with all the hate? The Devin Singletary hate." I think someone else put it up. Let me see if I can find this right. Chris S. Conference championship game to find Singletary. He's done. I think a lot of people are jaded by that screen drop and multiple screen drops on the season. I think a lot of people have been really soured by that and those plays and the yards left on the table by Singletary.
Mm-hmm.
It's
all
tough.
Right. Let's transition now from the running game to our week 3 opponent. And we're skipping the Miami Dolphins because we'll come back to the Miami Dolphins at the end, but we're continuing our series here of breaking down the Buffalo Bills 2021 opponents. Week 3, the Buffalo Bills take on the Washington football team. One of Sean McDermott's proteges and Ron Rivera. Scott Turner, son of Norv Turner, is the offensive coordinator there. Jack Del Rio is the defensive coordinator there. Vegas odds on the Washington Redskins are 8 wins. But if you look at this football team, Ryan Fitzpatrick is likely to beat out Taylor Heineke for a quarterback. I don't care what anyone says. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's the day 1 quarterback there. Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, those are 2 very good running backs. Jarrett Patterson is also there. You look at the wide receiver room, De'Ami Brown, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin. They also have Harmon there as well, Logan Thomas. So there are some names. And their offensive line isn't too bad either. Samuel Cosme, Charles Leno, Cornelius Lucas at tackle. It'll be interesting to see how those 3 shake out, whether Lucas is the right tackle, Leno is the left tackle, Cosme sits his first year. But then on the inside, Eric Flowers is back, Brandon Scherf, and then Chase Roulier. So it's not a terrible offensive line there in Washington. And then you look at this is where the talent is. I mean, look at some of these names. It's Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, Matt Ioannidis, who to me is like a modern day Kyle Williams, one of the more underrated D tackles in the National Football League. They drafted Jamin Davis to go along with Cole Holcomb, who's very athletic linebacking core. In the secondary, William Jackson, Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St. Juice is probably going to end up taking on that slot role. Bobby McCain, Landon Collins back there at safety. Is this the ultimate trap game?
Well, theoretically it is. Theoretically, this is the trap game. But honestly, what I have in my notes when this was a topic that I was preparing for, McDermott doesn't allow trap games. McDermott teaches his team and preaches this idea that you cannot overlook any opponent. Like, yeah, Randy says it. This should be a blowout, and it really should. But this team is good. And if there is any ounce of overconfidence, we will see it translate to the scoreboard. And the Bills could be in for a real fight. But I think McDermott does such a great job level-heading everyone in that locker room, getting them to understand every week, just like week by week, just take one game at a time. Things like that. He's so good at driving those teaching points home. I don't think there is a trap game. If the Bills get beat, it's because they got beat on the field execution-wise. It's not because they overlooked their opponent. And if they get beat, it's because the Washington football team is just better, and they executed better that Sunday.
We got a comment here from Pierre, and he says, Judge, let me get Antonio Gibson. So I have Antonio Gibson on my dynasty, in my dynasty. Like, I have him in both of my dynasty leagues. I'm in 2 dynasties.
I love some Antonio Gibson.
Pierre's been trying to get Antonio Gibson since I drafted the man. Like, he was upset on draft day. He offered me the 4th overall pick in the draft for him. I turned him down straight up because I think that the Washington football team is going to run Antonio Gibson into the ground. He's going to be their Christian McCaffrey. Like, this is a guy who's going to see 15, 20 carries a game, and he's going to see about 10 targets in the passing game. This is a guy who's going to touch the ball 30 times a game.
If McKissick doesn't steal it from him, McKissick was stealing so many passing reps from him, and that was the stupid part to me.
Before he got hurt last year, that Dallas game, he took over that football game.
He did.
He won that football game along with that defense. And now you have a quarterback there in Ryan Fitzpatrick, who he could take more shots than a guy like Alex Smith could. You know, Chris says never sleep on Fitz. If you get good Fitz, this is going to be an absolute dogfight. But then Jason Taylor comes in and says Fitz will throw 2 picks to Dane Jackson. It's Jekyll and Hyde. What Ryan Fitzpatrick are you going to get? But if you look at the weaponry on this offense, Ryan Fitzpatrick has Logan Thomas over the middle. I believe they also have John Bates, who I was a big fan of.
I love John Bates.
So Fitz has got 2 tight ends he can dump the ball off to. He's got J.D. McKissick he can dump the ball off to. He's got Antonio Gibson he can dump the ball off to. And then he's got these guys, Curtis Samuel on the end of rounds, and Curtis Samuel has been establishing himself as a nice boundary receiver in his own right. Terry McLaurin is a guy, Fitz loves that those what did he kill us with those? What's the name of that route? It's like a short post, right? Or the slant.
Oh, like a deeper slant, mid-deep slant kind of thing.
Like a 10-yard slant.
Yeah.
They killed us with that play last year, whether it was to Jazicki or whether it was to Devontae Parker in that week 2 game. Terry McLaurin and Ryan Fitzpatrick trying to connect on that. And then, plus they also got De'Ami Brown, who can make some plays down the field. There are some weapons on this team. So this young Buffalo Bills defensive line, or this newly rejuvenated Buffalo Bills defensive line, is going to have to find a way to attack Charles Leno, Cornelius Lucas, or Samuel Cosme, who I was playing at tackle. They're going to have to find a way to attack Eric Flowers and get around Eric Flowers and Chase Roulier, because Brandon Scherf's going to be a wall.
Yeah, there are weak spots of this offensive line, and it's going to be how this goes back to my point of the Bills getting creative on that front 4. Like if they can get creative and really start to jab at those positions of weakness for the Washington football team on that front line of theirs, we could really come out on top, because we know how Fitzy gets if you get in his head, not get in his head, but if you get, up in his grill and you really disrupt him in the pocket, like he can make some foolish mistakes because he likes to play hero ball because he can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. And Chris Jakey coming in saying, remember 2 years ago when they asked which QB was better, Allen, Josh, or Kyle Allen? What happened to Kyle? He's a 3rd string quarterback. He had a pretty devastating injury there. Like, they gave Tyler Haneke a nice deal, but I still Ron Rivera's just got his boys there. Like he's had Tyler Haneke in Carolina forever. Before Carolina signed Tyler Haneke, I wanted the Buffalo Bills to pursue him. Kyle Allen is another guy who's been with Ron Rivera forever there. So he's got some guys he's comfortable with behind Fitzy too. But it's going to be really interesting, that game. And somebody said, Y said, I bet the over on Washington for 8 wins. Me too.
Yeah,
I think they're winning the division again. Dallas is not going to be able to play defense. I don't care.
I kind of like what the Giants did this offseason, though.
True.
But yeah, I'd still agree with you. Pierre comes in and says they have Antonio Gandy Golden too. You said earlier they also have Kelvin Harmon. I'm sure Tilt has his opinions on NC State alum Kelvin Harmon. I liked Kelvin Harmon coming out. But yeah, no, they got depth at that wide receiver room. Drafting John Bates, they have depth behind Logan Thomas if he was just a 1-year wonder kind of thing. I like their 11 personnel a lot, and it's going to be tough for us to defend. But if we can stop them from scoring and get into a real old school kind of game, it's going to be real interesting, because we didn't win a whole lot of old school kind of games last year.
Truth to Heart says, remember when Judge said he would prefer Kyler over Josh? I wonder what happened. Listen, here's what I'm going to say about Kyler, because Arizona is my 1B team, and they're not playing the Bills this year, so I can be all on the Arizona bandwagon. I think Cliff Kingsbury is 95% of the problem there. Like, they went for the prima donna head coach. If they would have fired Cliff, if they would have had the balls this offseason to fire Cliff Kingsbury and hire Eric Bieniemy, I would like to see Kyler with a real coach. Like, I really would. That offense in Arizona, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, some of the weapons they're putting around Nuke Hopkins, I just don't get it. Remember in Houston, what does Nuke Hopkins need? Deep speed, so he can work the underneath and he can work the middle. And Arizona just refuses because Kyler's got a short trigger. Kyler can't see the middle of the field. Like, there needs to be, I think, a better mind calling the plays there. And hey, Brian Winters is in Arizona as well. Yeah, I don't think he'll make the final roster, but it should be interesting. All right, so we're at the hour point in our show now. Honestly, like how awesome is it? The comment section. We are like light years away. I think like 100 days away from football season still.
It's insane.
Just under 100 days. I think we're now at. Someone posted a picture on Twitter.
Yeah, it was just the other day.
Number. I think someone posted.
It was probably Harrison. It was probably Harrison Phillips. Are we not 99 days away?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're 98 now.
Oh, okay.
Think of a Buffalo Bill that wore 98. I can't.
I can't. Is it Pat Williams?
No, he was 93. Anyway, someone in the comment section tell me, Chris Janke, tell me a Buffalo
Sam
Bill.
Adams. Sam Adams?
He was not. No, he was 95.
Damn.
Someone.
Damn it. I thought I had it.
Star.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Unbelievable.
Is
yeah,
Star
it's because I think he is. It's because we haven't seen him in a year.
Oh, Star Wars 98. Okay.
Yeah, I can't believe we just overlooked that. Unbelievable.
But anyway, like literally, yeah, not called Fanatics for nothing. You guys have absolutely killed it tonight. In the comment section, like we're still 100, like almost 100, just under 100 days away from football season, and it took us an hour to get through our show notes. So there's still plenty of stuff to talk about. So now's the time of the show. Whatever you guys want to talk about, let us know. And we're going to start with Jason Taylor's comment here. And you guys just whatever you want to talk about, let us know in the comment section. We'll hit it up. It'll be good to see preseason games this year. I have an unhealthy obsession with preseason games. At least the start of preseason games. Then by the third quarter, I'd like hop on my phone and don't pay attention. But I have an unhealthy. Well, after the season, they'll be wearing 28 for Star. But how excited are you to actually see like the Isaiah Hodgins of the world gets a ball out, the Tanner Gentrys of the world, the Quentin Morrises of the world, some of the depth along our offensive and defensive lines like Brian Cox and Mike Love and Daryl Johnson and some of these depth linebackers that we got like Adams and Tyrell Dodson, who you did some cut-ups of this week. Like, how excited are you to see these guys finally get their chance on a football field against another team, get a chance to try to make this team as opposed to just against their own team?
I mean, I can't wait. Like, we were robbed of it last year, and I guess we were kind of robbed again a little bit because we got one less game, but I'm not really crying over that. Point is, like, we really had a lot of speculation last year. There, like, you see how much we're speculating right now because, you know, we're in the dog days of the offseason, but like, we're starting to get content again because we actually have the ability to see some stuff like on Twitter and see some stuff in preseason, stuff like that. Like, we're actually going to be able to talk about some stuff with substance this year because we get to see more than just what our brain speculates about roster cuts and roster battles, things like that. It's going to be great. Honestly, I'm a little salty. I moved from Rochester like this summer. I'm kind of missing St. John Fisher.
John, we're going to get to your comment in just one moment, but Andy's asked this one twice now. He says, are there shows like this in Arizona? Yes, for the Phoenix Suns, but not for the Arizona Cardinals. There just aren't. My brother-in-law, him and my father-in-law, they're diehard Cardinals fans. They remind me of me and my dad. But those are the only two really diehard Cardinals fans I've met since I've gotten out here to the desert. You go to their games and there's a ton of fans from other teams. 49ers are big out here. Cowboys are big out here. Raiders are big out here. Bills are big out here. It's very rare, and there aren't a lot of shows like this. I've always sort of like thought about like, I love the Bills, so I'd never do it. But I always think to myself, like, if I were to try to start like an Arizona Fanatics, like we always talk about how there's like the market is so saturated in Buffalo, right? There's 30 places you can go, 40 places you can go for Bills news, talk, conversation, articles, etc. It's not like that in Arizona. It's Locked On Cardinals with one of the local radio hosts here, and that's it. There are no YouTube shows. There are no podcasts. Like, it's the dudes on the radio and one podcast. That's it. Now, whether there's an appetite for it or not, I don't know. But if there is a knowledgeable Arizona Cardinals fan out there who understands how to talk into a microphone and feels comfortable on camera, there's probably a shitload of money out there for you to make. So you should probably get on it. But John DeMarchi coming in saying Buffalo winning NHL draft lotteries, World Series with Vladdy's Jays, and the Super Bowl in 2021 is happening. I loved seeing those clips of whatever they call it now. I still call it Dunn Tire Park. It absolutely incredible. Like they were talking on the radio this morning here in Arizona. I was driving my fiance's car today because my car's in the shop, so I wasn't listening to podcasts. I was listening to local radio, and that Suns game, how electric that Suns playoff game was, and how they can't wait to see that excitement. They want to see guys like JJ Watt and Cliff Kingsbury try to channel the excitement for the Suns into the Cardinals. It was just really fun to see people in Buffalo get a chance to enjoy themselves again.
Yeah.
Because you know that they don't need any sort of enticing to get to Highmark Stadium or whatever you want to call it. They don't need that. And that was just a small little sample or small little taste of what it's going to be like in September. And I got to get down to Buffalo for a tailgate this year. I got it.
I know, same.
I have these conversations with people all the time. They're like, what's a Buffalo tailgate like? I'm like, I wake up 6 a.m. Sometimes I don't go to bed the night before. I just roll out from wherever I was, maybe get like an hour power nap, crack open a beer, and I hit the road. I'm in the freaking tailgate by 7 a.m. They're like, what time's the game start? And I'm like, 1 o'clock. They're like, you're there 6 hours, 7 hours before game time. I'm like, hell yeah. And they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, drink beers, play pong, play cornhole, freaking cook up amazing food. Sometimes people do it on a rusty old car.
Yeah.
Do bowling ball shots, and we talk fucking Bills football.
Exactly.
You just get to sit there and just fucking just live in the moment. Like, and there's so many people around, your phone doesn't work either, so you can't be distracted. I sit there and I'm like refreshing my phone every
and it doesn't even matter, like, just from habit.
Well, because I'm trying to figure out who the inactives are, right. And I have to listen to WGR blaring on a radio, because my phone doesn't even work. So it's crazy. Pierce's home opener, man. If we can make it work, I'm in. I'll get those tickets and I will be there. I might not be able to afford to get into the stadium, but I sure as hell will tailgate and then head on over to the bar over there, the Big Tree, and have some wings and watch the game from there. But it's oh god. Now I'm getting excited.
It's just different. Like, there aren't a lot of places like that, and I've literally only done it once, like, of legal drinking age. Like, I've only
there's no legal drinking age at a Bills tailgate.
No, there isn't, and that's the thing.
I've been getting pissed drunk at Bills games since I was 14 years old. Like,
can't believe you just put that out there. No, but it's like it's so different. Like, it's not like this anywhere else. And that's why we talk about, like, what you were talking about with the Arizona Cardinals thing and like their Arizona Fanatics equivalent, whatever it is. There's nothing equitable to what Bills Mafia is. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. Harold Fuller coming in saying first year season tickets, dude. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, freaking happy.
Congrats.
I was a 10-year season ticket holder. I think one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life was give up my Buffalo Bills season tickets. It shows you how little I've had to struggle in my life. Like, one of my biggest struggles in my life was giving up Bills season tickets.
It's a tough one.
Dude, so happy for you, Harold. That is pumped. I'm pumped for you. Send us all the screenshots and tell us I know how it is. Are there any Arizona fans who can name 5 players from the practice squad? No,
they don't care.
No, like the biggest thing now is they finally got themselves like one of these European football players. They have like a German linebacker, and that's like the buzz right now because he's like all over Twitter, like posting things. I can't even pronounce his name. I don't even know his name, but like that's the buzz. The buzz is JJ Watt going to the Phoenix Suns playoff game and then talk about how much he loved the city, and some German footballer playing linebacker. Like, that's the buzz around the Cardinals right now.
They don't have a lot to get excited about.
Here was my favorite part about I have a tailgate story based off of this. So one of my favorite tailgate stories of all time was we used to have this really big group of guys, like 30, 40 guys, guys and gals in our tailgate party. We used to have a stuffed buffalo, right? And my cousin Chris, one of his favorite things to do was to walk up to fans, especially Patriots fans, because Patriots fans were super susceptible to this. And he would say to them, like, I want you to name 5 New England Patriots that were on your roster before 1995, not named Steve Grogan. No. And they couldn't do it. They could not do it. And the first And when they're sitting there and they're going, whoever, we had a couple of guys who had the liquid courage to do it, would just take this, cousin Chris sounds like a great guy, would just take this stuffed buffalo and would just run full bore into these people with this stuffed buffalo and just ram the heck out of them with this stuffed buffalo. So that's a Bills tailgate right there. That's the kind of things that we used to do at Bill's tailgate.
That question just reminds me of my years at UMass. Just like, do you even like the Patriots, or do you just like Tom Brady and the fact that you get to go to parades every other year and get privileged by that, especially my age group? Oh my God.
I saw some statistic where like there are like 8-year-olds who have been to more Super Bowl, Stanley Cup parades or whatever. Like,
no, it's insanity. Like the privilege is insane and they don't even understand it. They don't. I humbled a lot of my college friends because they just like, oh, they pity me.
and here's another great point that I want to bring up too, is on the radio this morning, they were having a conversation with this guy who was a Lakers fan. He's the ASU color analyst who grew up in California. He told the story about how like when he was a kid, he would go into the locker room, he got Magic Johnson's autograph and all those guys' autograph. And like, since then he's been hooked as a Lakers fan. So he's a true Lakers fan, born in LA, got to experience all that stuff as a child, moved out to Arizona. Now he ended up playing at Arizona State now as their TV guy or their color guy. And they were like, well, the question for you is like, are your kids LA fans or are they Suns fans? He said, oh, they're LA fans and they're the most spoiled little brats in the world because of LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and all those wins. And they were just like, yeah, it's really difficult because they felt like the Suns, who hadn't made the playoffs in 11 years, there was a generation of Suns fans that were gone. They felt like the city of Phoenix lost a generation of Suns fans. The number of Bills fans I know that grew up on JP Lossman and Kyle Lorton and Lee Evans and Stevie Johnson and like just losing upon losing. And
that's what makes us what we are. That's what makes us
still in this comment section. Yeah. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Sounds like the Sabres.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So kudos to anyone who became a Bills fan after 1999 for still being here. Like, and don't get, because the older generation felt it as well. Like my dad was like, yeah, you should have seen them in the fucking 80s. They were terrible.
Yeah. And no, this goes back to, I don't know if you saw Z-Bot's great interview with Michelle Girardi-Zumwalt, I think her name was, who does Bills Embedded and all that stuff. And she was also a part of Four Falls of Buffalo. Like she talked about this, like how different this fan base is and how like this fan base could be like leaps and bounds different than what it is if that Scott Norwood kick went in. Like, because we all suffered through that. Obviously I didn't, but like, because most of us suffered through that, and at least I know that it happened, we suffer through those tough times and it brings us closer together and it makes us even more passionate Bills fans because we want it even more. That's why people want to trade for Julio Jones, because we want that Super Bowl so bad and it makes us so passionate. That's what makes this fan base so unique, because we've all experienced that struggle, the turmoil, the turnover. Oh my God, just like the constant management turnover.
Patrick Garrett comes in and says, I witnessed the pain as a child. The Bills were practically like guilty of child abuse. Like literally.
I didn't know winning until the touchdown, until the Andy Dalton to Tyler Boyd touchdown that sent us to the playoffs. Like that was my first ounce of success, and that was a fluke and a half. That was a fluke and a half, and I was blessed to witness it. And ever since then, I actually understand what a successful football team looks like outside of just watching the Patriots wallop us. Yeah. So it's nice to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, we've got so many people coming in talking about like the years they became Bills fans. I absolutely love it. This was really fun. This is a nice fun trip down memory lane, but oh man. We got Pierre coming in saying the part that makes the new age fan not respect the 90s players is having to constantly make excuses for 9th Street. That's true. Like there might be some resentment because I feel like maybe as a person who became a fan after after that run, like I was born in 90, so I was born right before the first Super Bowl, and then the second, the third, the fourth. Those are the first 4 years of my birth. My dad likes to say that I am the reason that the Buffalo Bills lost 4 straight Super Bowls. He tells me all the time. Because the year I moved to Arizona, they made the playoffs.
Oh, you poor guy. Oh my God.
So it just added fuel to the fire. But like, that's a great point by Pierre too, right? Like if you're a Buffalo Bills fan born after, that year or whatever, like the number one comeback to you is be like, remember those 4 straight Super Bowls? It's like, no, I kind of don't. But like
those that do
not winning one. Like, yeah.
So
I can see where they're coming from. And John DeMarcy throwing it in the comment section. In 1984, Joe Dufek from Yale started games for us. And no, he was no Fitzmagic. Funny story. Joe Dufek operates a State Farm insurance company about 10 minutes from my house. Joe Dufek retired to Arizona and lives like 15, 20 minutes from my house and operates a State Farm insurance company. So
I bet he gets a lot of Bills consumers coming to us. You said there's a lot of Bills fans in Arizona.
That's the one name. That's the one name my dad would always say to me too, where he's like, listen, as bad as JP Lossman is, as bad as Kyle Orton is, as bad as, and Kyle Orton wasn't even that bad, but like as bad as all these quarterbacks were, he's like, listen, they were no Joe Dufek. That's what he would always say to me. And then I'm driving down. Oh, he played hard in 08. But my dad would always say like he was no Joe Dufek. They were no Joe Dufek, like because he was the worst of the worst. And one day I'm just I'm driving down the road and I see a giant sign that just says Joe Dufek. And I like took a picture of it. I'm like, this can't be the same guy. And I sent my dad and we Googled it. And sure enough, it was. But yeah. Patrick's like, let's not bring up nightmares. We got Mr. Diggs coming in saying, the one thing is our team is going to score. And that's what it was like in the 90s. We are going to score, keep up or lose. And that's the thing too, right? We inched our way into the playoffs in 2017. And the exciting wins were like the turnover fest in Atlanta and those type of games. Then again in 2019, we inched our way into the playoffs, right? Like we were winning games, scoring in the low 20s, sometimes not even getting into the 20s. We blew the doors off of people last year. Like it's so much fun to go back and watch the 49ers game and watch the Patriots game and watch some of these games. It's like, holy shit, this is like just the Miami game, week 17. You just get to sit there and it's like watching a highlight film, but it's a 40-minute condensed game. Like it's so much fun. This offense, Josh Allen, the running backs that we've been talking about, maybe Zach Ertz, Dawson Knox, Jacob Hollister, who's got that connection with Josh Allen, along with all these receivers, along with this offensive line that we're going to put up this year. This offense, if they don't score more than 30 points a game, if they don't average more than 30 points a game, we're doing something wrong, right?
Well, that brings up a whole nother can of worms and opens that can of worms because it's like, yeah, it's awesome that we're scoring more, but like I'd love to get that 2019 defense back because you think about games like the Rams game. It is possible. It's totally possible. It's just it puts added stress to each side because if you're scoring quickly, that means your defense is on the field more. If your defense is on the field more, they're more likely to get scored against. So it's a double-edged sword. It's not going to be, the 2019 offense, but if we can get back towards the 2019 defense, like Chris says, resurrect. If we can get close to it, I agree. Like Super Bowl or bust, because you think about the Dolphins game, you think about the Rams game, probably thinking about other games specifically, not coming to the top of my head, but think about like the third quarter woes kind of thing that we were going through the first half of last year. Like if our defense could have made some more key stops and our running game could have been efficient enough to bleed the clock, we wouldn't have been in like those tight nail biter type games where we're like, oh, we're going to do the Billsy thing and we're going to lose this game. So that's where it's like, I love our offense. I love that we can actually score 30 points a game. That's nothing I've ever been used to, but I do want that gritty Bills defense back a little bit, at least a little bit.
And we got Pierre coming in. Another great point for Pierre. It's almost like this guy should have his own show. He says, what gets me so excited is the idea of our defense possibly getting back to form. When was the last time we had a year that both the offense and the defense showed up in the same year? I'm with you guys, but I don't need that old defense back. I need a team that when they play prevent, the defense, because they score points, they put up points, they get out to a lead. The Seattle
this is a great point. I know
point. Be able to get enough pressure to where when your DBs are dropping back, you can either force turnovers or the other teams can't sustain drives on you. They don't need to be a top 5 defense. They don't
They
need to be
don't.
top 5.
You're on to the perfect point. And the point is, like you just said it, when we dropped into prevent defense, there were times when we were up 2-3 scores, whatever, 17 points, want to call it. There were times when we were up and we go into prevent and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you see the Colts drive down the field, easy touchdown, 3 minutes. And then if we fizzle, we're screwed. You come back, touchdown, 3 minutes. If we're going to drop into prevent, we at least have to have some sort of resistance. And that was the problem. It's like, we don't need to go all the way back to the 2019 defense, creating turnovers and all that stuff. But if they're just a little bit better and they can have some sort of resistance on those prevent defense situations, we'd be a hell of a lot better and our hearts would be beating a lot healthier, because there were too many moments where we were up big and a 3-minute drive turns into a touchdown and all of a sudden the game's back into balance. So
yeah, we got John DeMarcia coming to the super chat again. Always appreciate the super chatters. He said, Bradley Chubb is nice, but how much does Elway regret not taking Allen at 5 that year? Same with Colts, who had luck, but passed on Allen for all-pro Quentin Nelson at 6. Like, yeah, like, and that's the thing too, right? Like, it's, if you have the quarterback, everything else just sort of like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Ask the Green Bay Packers. We'll figure it out. Like, if you got the quarterback, it's a John Elway. He's out of a job. Like, he's no longer the GM. He's just the president. And there was a reason for that. And one of the reasons was his inability to find a quarterback. And he passed on Josh Allen there, obviously. Someone made a Madden comment here. I put these guys in the Madden sim, and oh my God, Rousseau is going to be ... Yeah. Rousseau had himself a nice 13 sack season for me on my Madden franchise. So I'm feeling that. Harold Fuller says he was at the blowout. I was at the blowout over the Vikings a couple of years ago. Josh Leap and linebacker is awesome. It's just,
wow.
It's fun to be in the National Football League and have a good quarterback.
Yep.
Like, at the end of the day, it's fun. Imagine if, like, we sort of got into this conversation on Monday's show. Imagine if we were going this season and Mitchell Trubisky was our starting quarterback. We'd be sitting there like, oh, I really hope that defense can lock people down and we can average 20 points a game. Like, it'll be 2019 all over again. But no, we're sitting here reminiscing about the days of old. We're sitting here talking about how our offense should score 30 points a game. We're sitting here talking about like what niche running back is going to make what plays this year. Like, we can have these conversations because we got a fucking stud at quarterback. It's so much fun. Much.
It's completely shifted. The narrative is completely shifted because you think about years like Tyrod, and it's like the defense has to keep us afloat because he's going to manage the game and he's going to get us 17 points, but we need to make sure the other team is scoring under 17. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, offense, you're going to go out there, you're going to get us at least like 25, something like that. And now it's just like every other facet of the game just has to be efficient enough. They don't have to like be leaps and bounds better than other people in the league. They just have to be efficient enough.
Yeah. We got Jeff Danger coming in saying, what's up with Zach Moss's injury? He could be good to go. He should be good to go, right? He's still in the red non-contact jersey. It was an ankle injury. Do you know the specifics of what that injury was?
No, I know it was a broken bone though. It was broken bone, like a true fracture. I imagine he's going to be back. They haven't talked about it like he's not going to be ready for week 1. I just don't think they're going to rush him into anything that is going to push re-injury or at the very least re-aggravation. So I'd assume he's going to be okay for week 1. I bet they put him in there like a little bit in the preseason, but they're not going to push him. They're going to give him just some time to get his feet under him.
Y comes in and says, will Addison get cut? To me, it's too soon to tell. Like, training camp will be like a really good indicator. I would wager that I would put it, if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say 55% chance that he gets cut. I put it at above 50%. What are your thoughts?
I'd go straight on the money 50-50. Like, there's just nothing really to differentiate it for me. It's too tough with the financial situation that it brings up. Obviously, now that we have some more money, it makes it a little more feasible to eat some dead cap for just this year. But yeah, there's like, why would I cut Addison if I don't know that someone else on the team is going to be better than what Addison was last year? Because, as much as we all like to rag on him because of his price tag and the unproportionality of his return on investment, all of that stuff, I don't want to move on from him until I know there's going to be someone that can actually replace him adequately.
We got Pierre coming in saying, "What's your best Josh Allen trade, or what's Josh Allen's best trade?" I think maybe
I don't know. I
what
was
he's saying.
interpreting that both
And,
ways.
I'm going to interpret it as what's Josh Allen's best trade, because my fiance actually walked in here a couple seconds ago and I had to put this thing on mute real quick, take my headphones off when you were talking. So I only saw your mouth moving. I didn't hear you. I'm sure the words were beautiful.
It's fine. Just keeping the ship afloat.
She came in on FaceTime with my brother-in-law, and he was like, he literally looked at me like on FaceTime and was like, "Are you still butthurt over what happened this weekend with the Josh Allen tweet?" Because he saw literally all of Twitter explode.
Right.
Oh, not engagement. I'm actually married, John. Sorry. Did I call her fiance again? I'm still getting used to it. But literally, like, she goes, her brother-in-law just goes, "Are you okay?" Like, literally ESPN was shitting on you. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. Like, I'll get over it. I got thick skin." But like, literally, because I think Josh Allen's best trait, to go back to what we're talking about, his best trait is his growth mindset, his ability to be reflective, understand what he does wrong, and fix it. He is the opposite of arrogant. Arm arrogance is good. It's fun. It's exciting. That was a decent take, but that's not what Ben Solak said in his original clip. He didn't say arm arrogance. He said arrogance. And Josh Allen is the furthest thing from an arrogant quarterback. He is constantly figuring out what is going wrong and what he can do to fix it, how he can grow, how he can get better, learning from his mistakes. To me, that's Josh Allen's best trait.
Yeah, no, think? It's definitely, for me too, it's definitely something mental. Because you hit it on the head. Like, if Ben said the word like confidence, I feel like we would all be talking about this just a little bit differently. Like, we'd all be a little bit more butthurt about it, because it's like, that's my quarterback. Like, we haven't had a good quarterback in so long. Like, we're all very sensitive to the quarterback topic, and we've had to defend Allen for a while now. So now it's like, if we hear anything negative about him, it's tough, because he had such a great year. But yeah, it has to be mental when it comes, like, we know the physical traits that this dude possesses, but like, the physical traits mean nothing if you don't have it mentally. And you see that with, like, I mean, I was going to say Jamarcus Russell, but like, that dude let himself go physically. Like,
yeah, I think Jay Cutler, Chris Janke said Jay Cutler, like, that's, I think, a good comp.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, yeah, that's a good point. Like, physically.
My favorite story from this week is Jay Cutler trying to get 50% of Christian Cavallari's social media empire money in the divorce. Get your bag, son. Get your bag. I think is what
boy, he could do it on his own.
No one would have watched that show on the E Network or whatever if it wasn't for Jay Cutler just coming in and just being like a fucking asshole.
I think he could, honestly, the kind of like weird following he has for his like somber negativity, he could get a crowd.
Oh, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are hitting the 1.5 hour mark. This has been, I'm not gonna lie to you, this back half has been a lot of fun. I'm like amped up, ready to go. I haven't eaten today too, so that also
gotta get something in there.
I'm now like 2 beers and a like Starbucks green tea with guava deep. I have not eaten food today, so I'm just riding high right now. But been a lot of fun, guys. We will be back on Monday, when we will be maybe discussing a Zach Ertz trade. If not, we will be discussing the wide receivers. We will be discussing what's the team we play after the Washington football team?
Titans? It's either the Titans or the Chiefs. I think it's the Titans, though.
Yeah, we got Eric coming in late saying, had a ball. We appreciate that's why we do it. Like, literally, like, we are a community. You guys are the fourth host of this show. This show would be legit nothing without you guys in the comment section. It would be about 45 minutes long and about 20 people would listen to it. What makes the show is the people in that comment section making our takes better, helping us articulate, sharing your own takes. We make each other better as fans, and that's what I love and appreciate about this comment section. And Lance coming in great, saying, "Great show, guys. For those in dynasty leagues, don't leave others hanging and check your team for proposed trades." Good night. All right, Lance, I will get on and I will check. I haven't been on that dynasty league thing since January.
That's funny.
They need to have an app. I don't think they have an app. Well, the app sucks. They have an app, but it sucks. So I will get on my desktop right now, Lance, and I will go check for your trade. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We all appreciate you guys. Oh, Richard's got one last question.
What just going to stop you.
What do you got, Richard? What do you got? Yeah, I prefer Sleeper Xander, but we're in some other one. We're in some other one. The sleeper app. I love.
I still need to try it. I haven't tried it. I've been recommended to it multiple times.
The sleeper app that I'm in, like, it's bonkers. There's trades like every day. People are just going ape shit. Like, it's so much fun. And then this other one, and don't get me wrong, it's a different kind of game. It's almost like chess. It's updated. That's good. This other one's kind of like chess. There's a salary cap in this one, like a legit salary cap. And you get to roster like 25 players. Like, it's nuts. Like, you actually feel like an NFL GM. 100%. 100%.
Probably.
My biggest issue with this whole thing is Pro Football Talk, like, making like fucking outrageous headlines every single day. I've come to realize 100% it's because of Rachel Bush, but I've come to realize that Pro Football Talk is literally the king of just the most poisonous clickbaity headlines of all time. I didn't it has come to my attention like the last year or two. Like, I grew up on Pro Football Talk. Like, when I first became like a real football fan, like, Pro Football Talk, like back when before it was bought by NBC, that was the fucking place to go, man. Like, so many people would go to that website, they would crash the server. They were the ones, they were like Incarcerated Bob, but like legit, because they had all the rumors. They were like, Florio was legit connected. This is before the Schefters and before the Rappaports and stuff. Like, Pro Football Talk was the place to go. Now it's just that clickbaity garbage. But 100% because of Rachel Bush. 100%.
Yeah, those questions just need to stop. Like, at this point, like, why are they asking the players this if they know what they're going to answer?
They know what the answer is going to be. They
foolish. Don't even bother.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time. This was honestly fucking awesome. I love this show. It's gonna go down to one of my all-time favorites, which is not something Dave's gonna want to hear. But
oh boy!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the number one of all time will always be the post Cowboys game when we were the post Cowboys game on Thanksgiving. That was fun.
I gotta go back and watch that now.
Oh, we were still a podcast. It was just a podcast back in the day. I don't even know if that audio is still.
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'll do my digging.
That was a lot of fun. We were joined by our guy in the comment section, Reed Levine, for that way back in the day. But this is a top 10. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.